I think that the ultimate job of an entrepreneur is to understand that, you don't know nothing and you need to learn everything as fast as possible.
Happy holidays and welcome to Founder's Voyage. Our speaker today is the co-founder of two companies, Byewaste, where he operates as CEO, and Swabit, where he is the managing director. He has a passion for data and innovation and an avid knowledge explorer. We are honored to have Tommaso Troiani as our speaker today.
Thanks so much, Spencer. Tommaso is going to kick us off talking about his journey as Spencer and I ask him a few questions. We're so honored to have you take the time to do this with us today, Tommaso, especially around the holidays. So thank you for your willingness. First question, I feel like I know you a bit, but I'd love it if you could tell us about some of your experience growing up and about some of the earlier life events and mentors that you feel influenced you personally and professionally.
Well, first of all, thank you for the nice introduction and congratulations for the program. Okay, well, speaking of myself, it's kind of hard to to tell personal stories, starting from nowhere. So maybe it's good to start from the last part. In the last 3 years, I've been starting companies, startups, mostly two main ones. I also, run, I also chase other ideas. Maybe one day they will concretize into something more. And my specialty is to software companies because I found it very, very easy. I mean, at least easier, to produce wine or beer, simply because it's very fast to get feedback loops and to to learn out of this. And I have the opportunity, to do some technical stuff thanks to my background. I'm an engineer, an industrial engineer, so I haven't coded too much in my life, but I know how to think like an engineer. So, and this is very helpful when you're planning, when you're making budgets, and when you try to be systematic about innovation. I also spent time at the university as a researcher. Right after the master degree in supply chain engineering, something like that, I decided not to become a consultant or not to work for any of the major industrial companies, which were in Italy, where many of my colleagues ended up working. And I decided, to give a try to academia, and I decided to give a try to another country. So from Italy, I moved to the Netherlands, where I work for the University of Delft, which is a very, very, very nice campus, very futuristic. It has a nice contrast with the surroundings. Surroundings, they're very old, very typical Dutch, from the golden era in 1700s. And the campus is fantastic. And and there I felt it was the right place where I could meet, nice people, at least embrace an environment where we can produce something innovative, and a great place where I didn't have to shave to go to work, which was important. And before I studied in Italy, in Bologna. I study mechanical engineer, industrial engineer, something around these terms. And there, I start to understand that maybe I could be an entrepreneur in the future, especially on a few business classes that you take when you do technical studies. There are always some, 1-2 extra credits you can get by studying business, stuff like that. And there I understood, well, maybe that's something for me, because it was, I felt somehow I had to connect, the two main parts of my personality. One is, this, technical curiosity and the willingness to explore the details and to go to the nerdiest possible solutions. But the other is something a bit more creative. When I decided to go for engineer, I was choosing, between physics, but also, to go for, painting class or art school. So, in my spare time, I still paint and, make drawings and stuff like that. So I felt like, this job, being an entrepreneur, really, is giving me the chance, to play different roles. I can be the creative one, I can be the technical one, I can be the business person, and somehow I felt like it matches my interest. I would not call them skill, but definitely curiosities, and that's it. So I am an artist who never became an artist. So around my family, there are painters, artists, inventors. In the past, I decided to be an engineer just because I like to do the hard stuff. And now I'm becoming a sort of mix in between, starting company, giving people ideas, and try to make something out of this. That's more or less me in a circular story, with for sure not linear.
Thank you, Tommaso. I find it quite interesting. So you're as an engineer, you sort of explored that engineering side, but wanted a bit more creativity and things like that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's so important, and I feel so many engineers don't allow themselves to grow in that particular way, just because they have the mentality that they're an engineer. But I think it's very powerful, the combination of skills. Now, I was hoping I could ask you a little bit, when you sort of started to make that transition into entrepreneurship, what did you feel most unprepared for?
Well, I think that when I start to consider this as a real job, I understood that I didn't know anything. And, this is still the case, even if, of course, in the last time, you acquire experience, you meet with people and you know how to deal with, with your uncertainties. Of course, Google is a great ally, but also people, they're great allies. Actually, people, I think that the ultimate job of an entrepreneur is to understand that you don't know nothing and you need to learn everything as fast as possible. Ultimately, my job is to learn fast enough before the money finishes, for example. So this is my job. So I need to learn about people problems. I need to learn about financing. I need to learn about technical when I need to discuss with my technical team. So the ultimate job is a learner. And for this, of course, you are never prepared. But I mean, the university and the academia, give you a ultimate framework. So to think as a scientist, so you validate assumptions, and I think this is very, very, very much important. Of course, for all the technicalities, you learn along the way. I think that I know not so much still about them, but I know enough to cover aspect, at least to have a conversation with many, many people. That's more or less the goal. So I don't know if I answered your question, by the way.
I can tell you that there's no wrong answers here.
Cool.
and we ask follow-up questions too. So I think that was pretty well explained. But I was actually wondering if you could talk a little bit about the vision that inspired Swabit, and if that vision sort of evolved over time and what you're envisioning for the future.
Okay, well, Swabit, I always name it, as my first child. Initially, like, many, many things start as a game. And, initially it was just a way to connect people. Especially, it started from my personal problem, as many things in life. As an international, I was living in a country which wasn't mine, which is the Netherlands. I actually wanted to find, a platform, a way to connect with people besides Tinder style kind of meetings, or something more professional, conferences and other kind of meeting where you could meet people according to your interests and curiosities. I think that it started around this problem. I was looking for a place where I could find information about places, information about people I could meet in the fastest possible way. And that's how it started. But again, it started as a game. I started to play with this idea with people who just helped me to start. Maybe people who, spend with me just a couple of coffees. And then, actually for a while, I've also considered to stop it because it actually wasn't going nowhere. Funny enough, because initially I felt, it was very important for me to find somebody who was more technical, who was able to make a software of this, and I didn't manage to find no one. And of course, then, life puts you in very nice situation. I met by chance my co-founder, and then together we start to play with this bit more professionally. Initially, it was just bits and post-it, as always, and then we start to drink some coffee. And a couple of months later, I decided to quit my job as a researcher at the university, and start this jumping into the jump. So and that was the start. Of course, we changed the product quite some times, because we were trying to find which was the perfect formula, which matches something which was a real problem at scale. So we interview many people. Initially, I really followed quite literally, Bill 24 steps, at least the first ones. Yeah, it's about try to understand with your persona, your beachhead market. I think those concepts are very powerful. And I spoke with many students, because I thought about starting from international students. There in the Netherlands is one of the countries where more and more international students come to study, due to the good university and lower price compared to London, for example. Many people from Europe and Asia come there, and they need to find like-minded people. It was the perfect place to start. Now, we evolved. We did a couple of versions. We are still evolving. Funny, now we are moving from initially it was a pure business to consumer thing, just because I felt the problem as a consumer, and it was the first point of contact with the reality I actually found, between this idea and whatever can solve. Now instead, maybe since I'm getting more experience as an entrepreneur, so I'm growing as a business person. Now the company is switching more to a business to business opportunity. So now we are selling these community platforms for companies, but more important to community managers, people who have these big Facebook groups, who are looking for a solution to to have more control. And this is the opportunity we are chasing. Now we've been in contact with some of these, especially in Italy, in the Netherlands, and we are now developing the platform for them. So, funny enough, again, we start from a B2C, and now we are ending up as a B2B, which somehow makes sense, because you are minimizing the risk, so it's easier to convince customers, investors, people who are supporting you. Companies that are more rational, they're consumer, and there are less. So it's also easier to get them, consider the same amount of marketing thing. I think that 2018, when this idea came to its first peak, I would say. Back then, it wasn't the right time to have a social business to consumer idea. Capital, the world of capital, it wasn't very much interest in putting money into a social. Maybe now in 2021, in the post-COVID world, the risks are changing. Maybe investors, they're more willing to try out a new social. And I think there are some initiatives which in the future would be interesting. But of course, we started earlier. Now we are landing, I would say, to a more a business to business opportunity. So it was really a journey.
I actually find Swabit so interesting how you've gone about it, and it's one of the sort of the same experience gave me the ideas for Unseen Games that I'm working on. So moving to another country and experiencing the level of, I wouldn't say isolation, but certainly not as much social life as I would like, and not feeling part of any sort of community. And so I really relate to that sort of connection. And so In a bit of a transition, I was hoping we could also talk a little bit about Byewaste. So I've got like a couple of sort of quick fire questions in regards to Byewaste. So feel free to just kind of take them however you want. But do you think it is going to be possible to have people intuitively see waste as valuable? What obstacles have you encountered in trying to promote this as a first-mind thought? And do you think that this will be more challenging in some cultures than others?
I think that, Byewaste, first of all, this idea, matches two of my backgrounds. So, I actually combined the experience I got at the university, where I was studying exactly circular economy, sustainability, topics like that. But I studied them from an industrial perspective. So I was occupied making machines, industrial plants to recycle more efficiently. But, you actually combine this with the software experience I got from Swabit. And more or less, and then here we go. I am working on a platform which connects citizens with producers, whoever was going to need your material, to sort of, get rid of the concept of waste as it is, because, we live in an environment in the world where there is no waste. It is all in our mind. And, definitely, it's hard. It's hard to convince people about this. And of course, there are culture where, it is harder than others. But, first of all, I think that, the moment you start a company, you have to look ahead. And more or less, you can minimize all the other risks. You can make validation. You can minimize, in many other ways. But, somehow the ultimate bet is to, you need to bet on the future state. You say, okay, my vision, my bet is that in 5 years from now, the world is going to start to look at this with my perspective. And I think this is really the ultimate challenge. Be right on your bet. Of course, you can read reports, but they always, they look at the past. Instead, you have to look at the future. So I think that in the next 5 years, we are going to see more and more interesting stuff around sustainability. Especially, I think that in this post-COVID world, we are going to see an acceleration. If you look at the money which comes from European Union, but also Biden in the US he actually promised, to put money into this system. So, and actually more money generated here. So I think that, circular economy is going to be a very hot topic in the next decade. So, I think that for this, we are in a good place. When it's about, convincing people, different culture, yes. But again, you start from, your beachhead market. And, in our case, it is the Netherlands, or at least the North European countries, where people, there are more, more interest. Especially, Byewaste right now deals with governments and municipalities. So, and, in countries like the Netherlands, the cities, they know very well what circular economy is. They know they need to do something. They have budget for it. But, those managers, they're not so much into the new things. So, we are solving their problem. We are bringing them a new idea, innovative idea, which focus on our whole problems, which is the waste. It's going to be a challenge. Currently, I'm working mostly on this second opportunity, which, in the last months, is giving me good challenges. Because, it is not only, you have to make the software work, you need to make the whole system work. It is, you need to try to understand, the whole value chain of waste in this case. And what fascinated me, and what I think it is, the core of the moat, what Bill, used to represent with this castle, is, Byewaste need to understand very well the behavior of people, the way people connects with the sustainability idea, and also, maybe the way people, get triggered to do a sustainable action for a different purpose. We are now exploring very heavily with behavioral scientists how to motivate people, how to offer them some incentives, discounts, and maybe, you're going to give us your item because you want a discount or you want a reward. or you want a badge, the software, so you are doing the wrong thing for the good goal. Yeah, that's more or less the idea. And somehow I think it's similar to when people stop to smoke, or when the smoking idea that was bad start to cigarette in the last 10 years. I think next 10 years will be about environment. And I think there are some good literature about behavior, how to change behavior by looking at the smoking initiative, at tobacco war, I think.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I am so excited to hear how this evolves. I think it's an incredibly difficult but valuable mission you're on. And if you ever want to get more nerdy and delve into it deeper, I'd love to just talk about that for hours. I think the behavior change element behind it has ramifications, obviously, for solving some really big world challenges that we're all passionate about. So getting a little more nitty gritty, we have a question from one of our listeners asking if you can talk a little bit more about the business model, definitely behind Swabit and maybe behind Byewaste as well. Who's actually paying, if you're using advertisements, and also if you could talk about your search for funding and investors a little bit.
Okay, well, starting from Swabit, in the last 2 years, we've been evolved from a business to consumer, where we were charging, small businesses who were putting their ads or content in communities targeting students, international students. Which, I mean, I also found it interesting that even if in a country like the Netherlands, many more students are coming every year, the small businesses, they're not really into students. And I found it fascinating. So one of the first business model aims to connect these two worlds. The small businesses who are living in these university cities, but so far they haven't managed to connect so much with this audience, apart from random Facebook ads. We wanted to get something more contextual. It was the first business model. Initially we got traction, but then we didn't manage to scale it. And now we offer basically a software solution, which is a software as a service solution for community managers. So they're paying for our platform, they put their logo, the white labeling, and here we go, they start to share the link, and they start to run their communities inside their own community. So of course, this is not a solution which makes me the happiest, because it is somehow different from the vision I had, which was helping people like Spencer to feel home in a different country. This is what we managed to find it. It was this little treasure managed to find after years of trying to look for it. We hoped to get funding and resources to scale it to more consumer, and there try other form of monetization. Maybe people could sell items or services inside those communities, or some of them can be appealing for brands who want to sponsor them, or etc. And actually this could open very interesting scenarios, because for the first time you as a social media owner, this community manager owner, you're going to receive some value out of the ads. And actually this is one of the things that we are finding very much. The customer we speak with, who are these Facebook community owners, communities of 10, 20,000 users. They're a bit frustrated because the whole money goes to Facebook. All the money Facebook made out of ads, out of this information they generate inside the community. So we would like to to share this profit with these owners, and that's more or less this long-term vision we have. But now we are making business with businesses. That's about Swabit. And these days we are not focused on investors. I connect with some VCs, but we don't think it's the right time. We want to go slower than people expect. We want to really nail the problem because, well, when it's about communities, there are very hard topics to explore. About the creation of content inside the community. We have to find the best way to facilitate it, etc. So we don't want to enter in this VC machine because, well, we don't want to run fast right now. We want to learn and take it easy. So we are happy to sell our software to some of these early customers, and then together with them explore how people behave inside the community. That's more or less the goal and the funding process. About Byewaste, we are now selling the platform to cities. Next year we are going to close the first 2 contracts. We're going to scale the solution to already 50,000 families. And we know that's not a scalable one because, well, it's going to be a nightmare to convince all the municipality of the world, because when you mention government, municipalities, and well, it doesn't make so much difference if they are from North Europe, South Europe, out of the world, the all governments are not efficient, not fast, etc. So it doesn't make as a perfect audience to scale your business, but it makes it as a good one to start. Later on, we are going to start to sell direct to the producers, and this is the goal. Try to start with the cities, start by getting paid for them, and also scale to 50, 100,000 families, and using this time to really understand the right set of incentives, the right behavioral models. So, and then after start to sell directly items we recycle to producers, which is not now part of our business. We only do the software one. And maybe later, the moment we have so many data about how people behave about sustainability, I think this data will be also interesting to be put together in some reports, which could be sold, of course, without breaking privacy. So, but just telling people how people in Delft, in Rotterdam, recycle, which is the audience, and I think those data will be valuable, even if, of course, it's not say, okay, Nancy has yesterday disposed a phone, now you need to sell them a new one. This is definitely too much, and is not aligned with our ethics. But well, maybe knowing that in the city of Rotterdam, 40% of people in the last year, they actually got rid of their monitors, and the monitors they have 7 years, they were 7-year-old, and so things like that would be benefits. So I definitely see an opportunity there, but of course, in order to catch this one, we need to first scale, and now we scale with cities, and we are very happy with that. Last point, these days we're also looking for investors for Byewaste, angels investors, people who are into impact, and maybe that's a good advice I can give, or at least I'm very happy to share my experience with you. Sort of the difference between investors who are just into tech, who just look at your solution from a financial perspective, which is the case of Swabit. So all the moment I meet with those people, they're not so much into the problem, they're just into the numbers. While investor that these days I'm connecting with Byewaste, who are more into the impact solutions, and actually that's nice to know. Those people, they are, of course, they want to see a return, but some of them, they're very much nerdy about the impact. So literally asking me, well, okay, assuming you scale, what is the amount of CO2 you manage to save? And this kind of question, which is very nice, because it makes you understand that capital moves differently. And I'm not saying that those are better investors or they're better people, but definitely they ask you, they're more interested about the kind of impact you make, And so these actually give you the chance to connect easily with, very important people, just because, you do something so important for the humanity, or at least for the country. Yeah. We are not fighting cancer or stuff like that, but definitely we are going to bring a positive contribution to the society.
That's awesome. I think if we can change people's mentality, instead of viewing things as waste, but as something that can be repurposed or recycled, there's an untold amount of good that can be done from that in the long term. One thing I was hoping to ask you a little bit about, given you started, I think, both of your companies before you went to the MIT bootcamp, is that correct?
No. Actually, I initially started Swabit before, and then, but actually when I started, it was still a part-time job, mostly a hobby thing. And then, in February 2000 something, I went to Brisbane, Australia, for the first bootcamp, and actually the bootcamp gave me definitely the right energy and more or less some nice knowledge to move Swabit further. And actually, 1 year after, I started Byewaste, and Byewaste story was a funny one. That I had a very, very long period working on Swabit, and I was looking for something to really disconnect, and then I found out that they were organizing an hackathon, which was speaking about smart city. And I actually went there without knowing nobody, just because I wanted to think about something different than just Swabit. I want to go out of my mental cage. And there, so I spent 3 days working, with people that I met just there on this, internet of waste, as I used to call it. And there, we ended up to be we ended up to win the competition. And then, we got some early traction, and then we start to keep spending time on this. And a couple of months after, I started, in front of a notary, etc. So it was a funny story.
Great, thank you. I was hoping to ask, actually, how did your bootcamp experience change the way you approached your work in regards to both?
One of the most important lessons, which I still use, or at least sometime I actually remember about using it, is they actually help me to frame these very big challenges in a very step-by-step approach, in something which is a bit more disciplined. The fact that you have this grid content of information theories really help you to focus on what is important, which is your customers. But of course, you need to find a way to speak with them in a structured way in order to get information out of them. So I think that's one of the most valuable lessons of the bootcamp is to really understand your persona. And actually, for me, again, that's another story. I actually found out to be a very good theory, the bootcamp, the moment I understood that I was the persona for their bootcamp. And and then I understood, and then I said, shit, this thing is working. So and it's funny because I got this moment of understanding the last night of the first bootcamp. So after, of course, you go through 6 hard days, you barely sleep. At the end of these days, I don't remember, one of the coaches, I say, but so can you tell me a bit more about the bootcamp? How, let's say, you imagine it. And so, and there, by asking this question, I understood that, actually, it's funny because the bootcamp itself is, the bootcamp on the theory they teach. So, which is nice. So basically, we as bootcampers, we actually were chosen because, of course, we are innovative. We are, maybe smart, or at least more curious. But definitely because we were in a transition. People were coming out from the college, or they were in their 30s like me, or they were in their 50s, like some of the boot campers. And funny that they actually thought about this program by using the same tools they're actually teaching. So they actually went the steps to determine the persona, etc. And the moment that I understood, I really felt well. This is something. This is something which is working, and yeah, definitely is working because again, they give you few important concepts, without complicating your life with too many stuff, but few important concepts which help you to navigate this big chaos of validation or starting a business, which is very chaotic. And I think this is the main important lesson.
I really appreciate that. You were, in my mind, a seasoned entrepreneur coming into the boot camp, and you still, through that experience, had your own kind of light bulb moment, realizing that you were the persona and kind of that it was already working. I think that's probably the best way to walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
Many of us in this community are in various stages of entrepreneurship. And one question that came to mind for me while you were talking is, how did you decide who your first hires should be, whether they should be technical or human specialists or some sort of hybrid?
Well, initially, when I first hired people on Swabit, initially I was very much looking technical, supporters, so people who could help me to really, put this vision into some line of code. So, and well, somehow, it is still important, but well, maybe, right now after a couple of years of actually this job, I sort of developed a maturity that, today, the moment I have to start my third company, maybe it could be again about software. Maybe, initially, I will not really looking for, only technical people, because, somehow technical can be just another way to solve a problem. I think that's, it's going to be, maybe this time I will go more, for sales people, or at least people who understand very much that particular business, or more or less both. But initially, when you first hire, is always a lottery, or basically you need to trust the person you're going to hire. Of course, actually, when I started, I made mistake. Now in Byewaste, I make less mistakes. I hope that you get more experience and you understand more or less what you need. And the moment I need to find out with one important skill, it's about trust. And of course, you need to have some competencies. But again, maybe the next time will be again a technical one, but maybe this time no, because what really matters, you have to be connected with the problem. I think this is also important. So, in Swabit, I was looking for students, people who, at least people like me, who actually they were coming from other countries, and those were the first people I hired initially, just to ask interviews about the persona. And then I understood they also have some, skills I might need. Same for Byewaste. Well, we started, I co-founded the company with my colleague at university. So we are two engineers, two experts in sustainability. Well, we found out it could be a nice match. And then I also brought some people I met in my Swabit experience. So yeah, you develop a network of talent, and when is the time to activate each person the other. But again, trust, which is an important skill when you start. So because you need to trust that the person is working as much as you work somehow, or at least they show some passion, maybe a different one, but yeah, they're motivated by something. I think that's really important. How. So try to acquire some technical skill. Well, it is important, but initially, you're not going to win this game because you have experience, but you're going to win the game just because you have passion. Actually, sometimes the fact you have too much experience is going to guide you to wrong places. Basically, you're going to approach the problem with the same perspective that you acquired during the experience, maybe. And it was exactly just because you had this perspective that you caused the problem. So sometimes, the fact that your experience might not be the best indicator. Actually, it's good to combine the teams with people who don't know nothing about sector, but they're motivated to solve it. People who know about the sector, but mostly from a network point of view. So, and well, the moment you need network, it's not really a much, maybe you shouldn't hire a person who has a network, but you just, offer him to be a consultant, advisor. And I think that's good enough. Yeah, I would say passion. Maybe it sounds like a cliche, but initially you don't have to sleep too much. You need to work quite hard, and in case you're not really motivated to make it work, you don't need. I think that's really what you need. And of course, it's going to take some time, and you need to be open for some, failures. You need to be open to make some mistakes. You need to be open to learn. Again, be entrepreneur is about learning. You need to learn, what you need from people. How can you assess people? How can you assess their motivation? And and you need to learn if, let's say, you can trust somebody after the first interview. The main question is, do I trust this person? Can this person deliver me whatever he has to deliver? I think trust.
Having trust within your startup is absolutely necessary. I mean, otherwise, how would you be able to trust them to get anything done? And there's probably a lack of trust is probably a cause of a lot of micromanaging, I would guess, in some companies. Now, Ines has asked a question. If you'd be able to talk a little bit about how you lead now, such as through daily calls, weekly task discussions, things like that. And we were hoping to also ask a bit about how it's changed given the COVID situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, of course, since, both of my companies, they are, somehow software companies, we approach this, Scrum methodologies. So we go through sprints, which, I found it a very nice way of working. Now we are getting a bit more, we acquire some strategy. So, now we work according to goals that we define. Of course, we don't have enough, time frame to look at what is going to happen in 1 year, but, we try to assess some main goals we want to accomplish, try to put in a plan. Of course, we are aware that most of the time is going to change, but at least we know that, that particular item in the agenda is very important. And, actually, this approach also helped me when I have to convince investors because, they're going to give you money to accomplish A, B, C. Well, we got 3 goals, but of course, we need to make it better. So more or less, we need to find the balance between the fact we have a plan and the fact that we are open for serendipity, some opportunities, and some real value out of the box. But we use goal and Scrum methodologies. And the moment we hire people who are not technical, we try to adopt the same methodologies also with non-technical teams. So when it's about marketing, again, we come out with a 2-week sprint planning. We come up with some main goals. We give us some tasks, and then when the sprint finishes, we evaluate the results and we try to learn how the mistakes or actions. That's more or less the way we work. And actually, in the last months, I've been working from Italy, even if the businesses are in the Netherlands. And of course, these days, for certain aspect, is wonderful. So you don't have to travel nowhere. And you just switch between Zoom calls, and you move from Lisbon to Rotterdam in 1 click, which is fantastic. And the way we manage the vibe inside the company, so the way we manage to keep it alive, we do a lot of Zoom call. Sometimes we have 1 in the morning and we say just good morning to people. Sometimes we have in the afternoon, but not all the time. We try to facilitate as much as possible communication between people. also finding a balance between meetings and being productive, working on the task. We are definitely now, since we are not sharing the same physical office, we need to have a bit more meetings in between just to let people communicate. But I have to say that in the last months, I haven't noticed a drop in productivity. Actually, maybe we even work better. Of course, initially was we need to get comfortable in the new environment. So basically, we need to find our own space inside our own environments. Desks, rooms, stuff that before you just go to the office and you don't care. So, but after an initial period of somebody need to buy a monitor or a speaker or something like that, now we are working. We are working with no problem. I'm just afraid, but maybe that's just something which come out of the old world. But some ideas that generally they came out when you're drinking coffee, or I don't know, play ping pong, or walking in the corridor with your colleagues. So some creativity you might miss some good ideas just because you are not physically talking and speak randomly with people. Well, that's something to consider. But so far I don't have data that to say, okay, well, compared to last year, we had less crazy ideas compared to 1 year ago because we are not spending time together. Maybe, but well, right now this compensated by the way we are producing more. Somehow we are still safe. But well, I hope in the future, hopefully within 2021, we are going to combine the two aspects. So we're going to remain working from home most of the times, especially when it's about, well, you need to produce, you need to work on your task, you don't want to be distracted. And working from home for this aspect is great. But of course, I hope to combine it with some brainstorming in person, or spending time together, maybe speak about your weekend. And there you need to give yourself some space to let new idea coming out. And by then, so in the future, I foresee a way to, maybe we work 3 days from home, 2 from the office, something like that. Or maybe we work for 1 month from home and 1 week all together, maybe in a different location every time. It would be wonderful. So you combine sort of, you do a sort of holiday/work, and maybe you experience team building in a different perspective. I think that speaking about, well, how the world could evolve. I mean, it will be cool when in the future, instead of these co-working spaces, which they look like offices. So you have your boxes with your desk. Maybe they will allow these co-brainstorming spaces. Imagine this is like this playground for new ideas. So imagine how cool you have spaces where they are specializing in let creativity coming out. And maybe you rent it for 2 days, you bring your team, you have a lot of creativity, and then you come back to your working from home task. I think could be a great opportunity. I don't know, maybe somebody's listening who want to try out a co-working brainstorming facility. I think it would be great. So you're helped by some designer, maybe you invite some artists to give workshop. It will be a cool work. So, but currently we just work from home. So we are very productive. We are creative, but maybe less than before, because well, we don't have space, time and mental space to let new idea coming out. Because before we had coffee and something new was said. So, but maybe it's good. Maybe right now that's what we need.
It's kind of an honor to just watch your brain work through an idea. We kind of got the opportunity to have that in real time. But I really appreciate that. I know this has been such a challenging period for anyone, but for those trying to run their own company, and you're running too. So I really appreciate you also kind of sharing the silver lining and kind of the lessons you feel we can take from this time. Thank you so much for all your time too. So at the wrap up, we've been kind of asking this question, and I think it's a good one. What do you feel has been, the best lesson or takeaway from your journey so far, or some words of wisdom that you might want to leave us with? It can even be something that someone else gave you.
Speak about my personal experience. Well, maybe. Well, of course, there are many lessons which are a bit high level. Maybe instead, well, I'm going to go against the idea of sharing big wisdom. So, well, I think that's the main important advice that this experience taught me is to find your customer quite soon. And because, well, this is one mistake I made in Swabit, for example, and it came out of my experience as an engineer, I think. So I actually focused too much on the product / of course finding persona, iterate, but I haven't focused too much on the sales process. So finding salespeople, connect with customer, and go chase them. So somehow, the metaphor I use, even if, well, it's not within my background, but it's similar when you go to the gym. Like you are training two arms, and one was the product, and the other was the sales, the marketing, the way you're going to distribute your product. Well, my advice is to try to train both arms at the same level, and try, let's say, to spend time also train the other arm. Speaking of myself, I mean, because of my background, I have the tendency to focus on the product arm, and, well, I always postpone the moment I need to start training my sales arm. And 2 years after, I found out to have a very nice product, but very few ways to sell it. So, well, my advice is to train both arms with the same effort, and of course, and try to understand your limits. In my case, they're connected with the sales part, so with the commercial part, which is not something that I am particularly into it, and try to work around your limits. Could be connect with mentors who can help you with sales. Try to spend time studying them, or, well, connect with many salespeople and maybe try to recruit some of them for some help. Well, my advice is to try to know your limits, try to know yourself, and then try to train the part when the part where you are not the strongest, because ultimately you need to be balanced. You need to be at least good at both of them. Of course, then you need to be very good at something. You need to cover all the aspects in a company. You cannot don't focus on product, sales, or something. You need to have at least some knowledge, some experience, some test. Basically, you need to start in every places. Well, of course, initially, similar when you go to the gym, you are not going to start with 100 kilos. You start with 1, or maybe with none. You start with the movement. So you start to learn. And so again, try to do both things at the beginning instead of postponing any of them. So just do it. Maybe that's a commercial, but yeah, it's somehow around the sport metaphors I've been using so far. So it's useful.
Wow, thank you. I think that was maybe 5 lessons in one. We're gonna go over the audio of that and break down your quotes. No, but all of it was great advice. I really appreciate your perspective and your energy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you making time for this today.
I always found it amazing. We have so different backgrounds, but somehow the fact that we went through the bootcamp is going to facilitate a lot of the connection. Also, thank you for Nancy and Spencer for this opportunity. I think it was fantastic to have time to reflect upon your activities, and I think that it is one of the cheapest way to go to the doctor. It's like when you go to therapy. Maybe you should rename the channel, therapy for entrepreneurs, or
maybe
it could be interesting. This is the nice part, because We are facing problems as an entrepreneur. You need to find a community of people who can support you. Well, I think it is fundamental. So, you cannot build nothing alone. So you need to be surrounded by people who share, at least they give you some encouragement or some support or some feedback. Well, community is super essential.
Much agreed. Thank you so much for all your time today. And we will talk soon, my friend. Yeah, and thanks to everyone. I hope that you have a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening ahead.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.
And happy
Happy holidays.
holidays.
And happy holidays.
Ciao, ciao.
This has been Nancy and Spencer on Founders Voyage Weekly Podcast. Our speaker each week can be reached through our Discord server. Our intro and outro music is from the song Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. We'll be back again next week for another episode. Until then, have a great day and continue your voyage.